Namaste. Namaste all. Welcome to yet another session in 5th Global Festival of Oneness, celebrated for 1 month on account of birthday of Bhagavadpadacharya Shankara. I will start the session by prayers consisting of one Shanti part from Upanishad, Guru Stavan, and couple of verses constructed by Adi Shankaracharya and one verse constructed by Govinda Bhagavadpadacharya. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shlokardhena Pravakshyami Yaduktam Grantha Kotibhi Brahma Satyam Jaganmithya Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. King Jyotistava Bhanumana Anime Ratro Pradipadikam Syadevam Ravideepa Darshana Vidau King Jyotirakhyahime Chakshustasya Nimilanadi Samaye Kindhi Diyo Darshane Kin Tatrahamato Bhavan Paramakam Jyotistadasmit Prabho Na Nirodhor Na Chotpatir Na Baddho Na Chasadhakaha Na Mumukshur Na Mayimukta Ityesha Paramarthata. Welcome all once again. Today we are blessed to have Sri Rammohan Subramaniam for explaining the concept of Shraddha in this session. Sri Rammohan Subramaniam completed the Vedanta course 2011 to 2013 at Sandipani Sadhanalaya, Mumbai. Presently, he conducts and coordinates various activities at Chinmay International Foundation, such as Vedanta courses and evaluation of home study courses, answers responding to the queries raised by the students related to Vedanta study. And he also conducts webinars, classes on Upanishads and Prakarana Granthas. He is going to talk to us on Shraddha today. Please, over to you, Sri Rammohan Subramaniam ji.
Thank you, Sanjeev ji. Hari Om. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswati Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Padyantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavadpada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Today we are going to understand the term Shraddha and how it relates to Dharma and Moksha Marga. the session is divided into 8 parts, where we will first define the term Shraddha and distinguish it from belief, blind belief, and faith. Then we will also see the role of Shraddha in Veda and Vedanta Marga. Then the question will be put forward, does Shraddha come in many flavors or is it of one kind? And then we will explore how to develop this Shraddha in one of us. We will spend some time discussing what is the difference in the Shraddha that is pursued in Moksha Marga and Shraddha that is pursued in Dharma Marga. Last, we will see what happens if you don't have Shraddha at all. In the concluding part of this session, I will be explaining to you where exactly the Shraddha is rooted. So this in an outline is the scope of our discussions today. The term Shraddha does not mean to blindly believe in something that you really have grave doubts about. Shraddha relates more with the source rather than the knowledge gained from the source. It can be translated as trust rather than belief in the source of knowledge. Shraddha actually concerns itself with the source in its scope rather than the knowledge content per se that we gain from the source. The first thing that we have to understand that Vedanta and Veda does not expect its contents to be accepted through blind belief in the teaching, but it expects an implicit trust in this source of knowledge, namely Shastra and Guru Upadesha. This is to be followed by applying one's intellect to understand the purport of Vedanta or Veda, what exactly is it teaching, and finally realize the supreme benefit or the truth of oneself. Typically, Shraddha tries to bridge the gap between what is experienced and or scientifically proved on one hand and what Vedanta and Vedas are saying on the other hand. In its approach, the method that Vedanta uses is quite similar to the scientific approach. What you cannot prove currently, you take it as a working hypothesis in order to proceed with your investigation. Some people actually call it belief pending verification, but a right term that is to be used is trusting the means of knowledge pending realization of the truth of the knowledge which dawns in us. Shraddha becomes very relevant when it comes to Shastra. And in Aparokshanubhuti, verse 8, it declares that implicit devotion, bhakti, towards the word contained in the scriptures and the teacher is defined as Shraddha. That implicit devotion, some translators, communicators have used the term faith in place of devotion. But if you look into the term bhakti in its completeness, it is not just faith. In bhakti, there is trust, there is reverence, and there is surrender. I have a faith in a power which I revere, and I find myself inferior in my capability when compared to that. That is called bhakti. All these three are included. Bhakti means trust, reverence, and surrender. So simply calling it as faith as if it's a transactional decision is an incorrect assessment. To illustrate this, let us take an example of a person who is blind, blindfolded, and is taking a path towards his safe haven, which is his home. Now, there are three options that are available for this young person. One, he can remain blindfolded and not move around. I'll be where I am. Let some magic happen and magically I'll be transported home. Or, I do not have my power of seeing, but I have other things that I can use. I can touch around. I can hear what is happening and try to use those organs and try to move around and find my way home. Or he could follow the advice of someone who has gone ahead of him to the same safe haven success. Of the three options, given his condition, the best option is C, correct? However, prior to that, he should have trust in the guiding instructions and the person. So how does this trust in the guiding instructions and the person who's giving it take place? How does this happen? At first, he remains unmoving for a long period of time. And he says, okay, one day, one moment, I will become liberated. One day, I will find myself in my safe haven. One day, I will find I'm back in my home because Bhagwan is so powerful. He will lift me from here and put me there. And after some time, he recognizes that nothing is happening. He is where he is. His fears are multiplying and his helplessness is increasing and his anxiety starts shooting. Then he cannot remain in the state of that tamasic rest. He has to do something. Immediately, he engages himself into an activity which is devoid of sight. It's a handicapped activity, we can call it. And so what does he do? He moves around. And people say, predictably, the person who is actually blindfolded always goes around in circles. He does not go anywhere. He tries one direction, he loses heart, then he comes back, and then he moves around, then he goes in another direction. And typically they go around circles, in and out, in and out. So after having traversed hither and thither, relying on his other senses which are not going to function in his role towards seeking his destination, which is his home, he recognizes that this is a wasteful pursuit, which is not likely to take him home, as the remaining sense organs are incapable of helping him in this situation. Only then it dawns on him that the only way available is to implicitly develop faith in the compassionate voice and its precise instructions. This instinctive realization of the trustworthiness of the source of knowledge guides. The guru actually removes his blindfold and points him towards his home and then bids him, fair speed, go ahead, reach your destination. On the way, please inquire and make sure you're in the right direction. You will definitely reach home. That is what the guru will say. The guru is not going to go along with him nor guide him all the way. He's just going to tell, this is the direction you have to go towards your home, and the rest is up to you. The Shravana portion, which the Guru and the Shastra is giving us, which is called vocal instructions, he, the boy or the person who is lost or blindfolded, reviews through his mananam, meaning his intellectual analysis. And the logical assertion of the preciseness of the journey towards his safe home is realized by him first. He follows the instructions by validating with fellow travelers he meets on the way and proceeds with faith born out of this Shraddha. A technical definition of Shraddha can be gained by studying Pramana Shastra. Pramana in Sanskrit refers to the means of knowledge. For example, sight is a means of knowledge in the realm of colors. When I see something, I can immediately discern it is red, blue, green, etc. I see light, I see darkness, absence of light. I sense it. In the realm of sound, hearing is the means of knowledge. These are actually called primary means of knowledge. A primary means of knowledge is an authority for the knowledge in that realm. Nobody can question in the realm of colors. What you see is the exact color that is seen. Nobody can say, I'm seeing yellow, but we can call it out as red or blue or something. Nobody can say that. A primary source of knowledge cannot be refuted or supported by another source of knowledge. It does not expect any support from another source of knowledge. A non-primary source of knowledge can always be refuted or supported by another source of knowledge. In Sanskrit, we would call such pramanas as upajivya pramana. The primary means of knowledge supports other means of knowledge, while by itself it is imbibed with intrinsic credibility called swata pramanyam. In other words, whatever we are seeing by our eyes, we know it to be true, representing colors. The nose that is smelling recognizes good smell from bad smell. This is a rose smell. This is an onion smell. It is discovered by the nose. We don't need any other means of knowledge to prove that the rose is smelling like a rose or the onion is smelling like an onion. Likewise, taste, likewise, touch, and sound. So these are all called primary means of knowledge, which supports other means of knowledge. After we get that smell, we can do some more analysis and gain more information. Shraddha is defined as that subtle conviction by which a primary source of knowledge, which is called upajivya pramanam, is declarable as possessing imbibed reliability. So Shraddha relates to primary means of knowledge, not to secondary. For secondary means of knowledge, you can always use another primary means of knowledge to decide. Upajivya pramanasya swatah pramanya jnanam is Shraddha. In other words, it is our intuitive awareness of the credibility of a primary source of knowledge. I don't need somebody else to tell me that my eyes are seeing the color or not. I can trust my eyes. I can trust my nose. I can trust my tongue. Shraddha is actually cultivated over time. Initially, when we were young, we did not have fully developed sensory organs. We did not know how to discern the subtle difference between colors. So, these eyes, nose, tongue, and all the other primary source of knowledge have been functioning over time, providing you with reliable information, and therefore you develop Shraddha on them. So Shraddha is cultivated over time. Please understand that we did not have on day one Shraddha in all our sense organs. It is gradually only that we have allowed our eyes to become the primary source of knowledge for anything to do with vision. Our smell will be the primary source of knowledge for the scent that's are prevailing everywhere. Likewise, taste, touch, and sound. When we find that the knowledge gained from the primary source of knowledge is true knowledge, then our Shraddha increases it. If we find that the knowledge that we gain from the primary source of knowledge is not 100% reliable, then our Shraddha will drop away. In worldly realm, sensory means is considered as the primary source of knowledge. We develop Shraddha or trust through our experiences in using our sense organs to gain knowledge. Our trust in them increases gradually in the realm of our trust in them increases gradually in the realm of sense perception. In the realm which is beyond the ken of sense perception, we have Veda as the sixth primary source of knowledge, which is called Shabda Praman. Now, please understand, primary sources of knowledge cannot contradict each other. When I'm seeing a color in front of me through my eyes, my smell cannot come and say that it is not red or blue, nor my tongue can come and say that is blue. Likewise, touch and sound. Our sensory perception cannot contradict Vedas. Likewise, Veda cannot contradict sense organs. Our understanding of ourselves and the world increases when we employ all the available means of knowledge in a coordinated and holistic manner. Our sight, smell, taste, touch, which are 5 dimensions of perceiving the world outside, when they are integrated, then our knowledge of the world increases. If somebody has got slight problem with their vision, then there is a difference in your understanding of the world compared to one who has got perfect vision. You may augment that sight's issue with other means. I'm not saying that it cannot be overcome, but definitely by itself, sight will not be reliable for you because there is an impaired vision. Likewise, smell, likewise, taste, likewise, touch and sound, etc. So, a well coordinated and holistic approach of clubbing all the means of knowledge, a wise person will appropriately handle these various sources of knowledge intelligently to coordinate their working. A primary source which is more trustworthy in its realm is often more relied upon. That is what we have to understand. Now, let us say if like Gandhari who decided to blindfold herself, we too decide not to use Vedas as a means of knowledge. And therefore, we are going to deprive ourselves of that dimension of knowledge which is beyond our sense perception. Then what happens? We alone are to be blamed. Gandhari could have enhanced the king's vision if she had decided to be his eyes for him. Only when one employs all primary means of knowledge available to him and effectively developed in a coordinated and consolidated manner by one's mind and intellect, then only we can expand our understanding of ourselves and the world around us appropriately. Now, we declared that the dimension or realm of knowledge that Veda reveals is that which is beyond the ken of sense organs, meaning it is beyond what sense organs can reveal to us. Now, sense organs may malfunction. For example, if you have a cataract in your eyes, you're not going to see properly. Or they may not operate in a particular realm. For example, eyes cannot function in the dream world. I cannot use my physical eyes to see the dream world and come to some conclusion. While the former, where there is a malfunction or an inferior functioning of the sense organ, the former, that is within the realm, whereas the later, where the eyes cannot function in dream world, meaning the dream world is beyond the ken of that organ's capability, beyond the realm of that particular sense organ. So when we say that Vedas is revealing something which is beyond the ken of sense organs, we are actually telling that we are talking about something which we cannot discern by our organs of knowledge. Science helps us expand our horizon by pooling, extrapolating, and expanding our current capability of sense organ by using instruments and other means. But it will not help us in the realm beyond the sense organ's capability, is what we have to understand. I cannot scientifically prove or disprove Vedas because the realm they are operating are totally different. Therefore, in Viveka Chudamani, verse number 25, it is declared, Shastrasya Guruvakyasya Satya Buddhya Avadharanam Sa Shraddha Katita Sadbihi Yaya Vastu Upalabhyate. Acceptance by firm judgment as true of what the scriptures and Guru instruct is called by the sages a Shraddha, by means of which the reality is perceived. Here the key is Satya Buddhya Avadharan or Vishwasa, means a fully whole mind must attain to that perfect state of assured reliance, meaning a trust on the truth of the instructions received because it has come from a reliable source, without which a wholehearted, one-pointed practice of those instructions is not possible. So Shraddha becomes very critical when it comes to the journey towards realization. So what does Shraddha do if you were to critically analyze? Shraddha plays a role of bridging the gap between the conventional means of knowledge and Vedic knowledge. Among the qualities which we have to accumulate so as to harness this knowledge of Veda, Shraddha plays an important function. Viveka Chudamani 19th verse advocates discrimination between unchanging and changing entities of the world, which is Viveka, and developing dispassion, which is Vairagya, for the enjoyment of the fruits of action, both here and hereafterward. Then among the six qualities, which is known as Shakti Sampati, Shamadama Uparamati Tiksha Shraddha Samadhan, it advocates Shraddha as the key for acquiring tranquility. The text continues that in the Moksha Marga, our intense desire for liberation will enable one to realize the true self. For the Dharma Marga too, Shraddha plays a pivotal function. Because up to Samadhan, the path is common whether you take Dharma Marga or Moksha Marga. It is only in the Mumukshutvam which is placed as the last step which decides whether you are in the Moksha Marga or Dharma Marga. So, for Dharma Marga too, Shraddha plays a pivotal role function. The moral and spiritual pointer that guides all being is the Shraddha, which manifests as faith in one's inner instrument. That is mind, intellect, ego, memory. If Shraddha is absent or not properly cultivated in a right manner, then our faith becomes a mere blind belief. So it is only in faith where we have a choice whether it is blind belief or it is a belief drawn out of sattvic Shraddha. If it is not guided by a trustworthy source of knowledge, we may be led astray. For Dharma and Moksha Marga, one definitely requires Shraddha, where the chosen path relies on scriptural injunction alone for guidance. Now, does Shraddha come in many flavors? Because I told you, looks like there are different kind of Shraddha that is to be considered. Shraddha manifests as faith in our inner instrument. Therefore, it is colored by our vasanas, which can have either sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic leaning towards either higher and nobler source of knowledge or sources of materialistic knowledge. Or if Shraddha is not cultivated at all, we may continue to remain ignorant. These are the three possibilities. Shraddha manifests as faith. Therefore, it gets colored. This is explained by Bhagavan Sri Krishna in Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga chapter, the third sloka. Bhagavan explained the Shraddha of all being is in accordance with their inner instruments. There, when he says Shraddha, he's talking about the faith which is born out of Shraddha. Bhagavan Shankaracharya writes, the Shraddha or the directed devotional trust of every person towards various means of knowledge follows from his inherent nature or natural temperament. In other words, we are going to place our Shraddha in a path or a direction dictated by our inner instrument or our inner leaning, which is either sattvic, tamasic, or rajasic. The term swabhava in the verse 17.2 and the word sattva in the third verse is synonymous to indicate that our Shraddha is imbued by our vasana. The faith of each person thus takes its varna and guna from his core stuff of his being. So, Shraddha is directed by one's vasana. This much we have to understand. This is supported by Bhagavad Gita verse 7.20 and 7.23, wherein in the commentary, Bhagavan Shankaracharya again calls out people, apakruta ajnanaha, deprived of their wisdom. Apakruta means deprived. Jnanaha means one who are deprived of their wisdom, deprived of their discriminating knowledge, that is not relying on a well-equipped intellect, taitai kamahi, by desires for various objects driven by their vasanas, on a well-equipped intellect, progeny, cattle, heaven, etc., they are niyataha, guided, compelled, swaya praktya, by their own nature, by particular tendencies gathered in the past lives, he says. Prabhatyate, resorts to or place their Shraddha, anya devata, towards other deities, who are different from Vasudeva, the self. Here, when he says Vasudeva, he's talking about Atmani. Asthaya, following, taking the help of Tantam Niyamam, the relevant methods and those processes that are well known for the adoration of the concerned limited deities with limited gains whereas they could have gained the Supreme Self by changing their direction, is what he says. So, when the inner instrument is strongly endowed with sattva, a predominance of sattva, purity in man, then it is easy for him to attain self realization or knowledge of the self. Those who are endowed naturally with the sattvic faith, born out of a sattvic shraddha, that is, an outcome of their punya karmas done in the past, then they will immediately search for higher source of knowledge and aim at liberation, and they will be liberated. When this faith is joined to sattva, it leads to salvation. If the faith that is coming out of Rajasic Shraddha becomes the predominant factor in us, then we become a handmaid of activity. Those who are endowed with Rajasic faith run after inferior duties or worldly activities. When Rajas preponderates, it colors the Shraddha and thus leads us towards trust in various activities and various devatas who will propitiate those activities. If tamas or inertia is prevailing in our inner instrument, Shraddha is actually annihilated as though he has no devotion nor trust in any higher pursuit nor actions. Those whose Shraddha is covered by tamas are ignorant of higher values and thus become cruel sometimes. They may kill animals for sacrifice, gain trivial pleasures, they invoke the spirits and talk with ghosts. When tamas predominates, Shraddha is covered by darkness of ignorance. Just as the water of Ganga is contaminated by being put in a vessel where liquor was being kept earlier, so too a virtuous person is spoiled by his inner temperament or the company or constant association that he is maintaining. So, typically, Shraddha is born of the individual nature. That is the samskaras that are inherent in the individual. Impressions of previously done good and bad actions, previous janmas, and which are manifesting themselves at the time of death into creating this particular inner instrument where our Shraddha is predominant. However, we can always build sattvic Shraddha by worship of deities who are benevolent to human being, which is an effect of sattva. A sattvic lifestyle adorned willfully gradually allows us to develop sattvic Shraddha. So, by force, out of that understanding that I need to cultivate sattvic faith and sattvic Shraddha, we can change ourselves, is what is meant here. It is an uphill task, please mind, because it involves certain sacrifices which are inherently there in us, driven by our temperament or the inner vasanas that are driving us. Now, Rajasic Shraddha develops and strengthens itself by worship of the intermediate devatas and other kind of deities for material gains. The Artha and Arthati Bhakti is in that mode only. This is an effect of selfish Rajasic style. Tamasic Shraddha is developed and strengthened by the worship of the disembodied spirit, ghosts, and lower powers, which is an effect of tamas causing not to have any Shraddha and thus resorting to prohibited means of gaining results. Tamasic food and tamasic company leads us towards this direction in our life. Now, if we are having a tamasic or rajasic tendency and we have no will to change that, what happens to us? In Chandogya Upanishad, chapter 7, which speaks of the conversation between Sanat Kumara and Narada, we find Narada seeking the means to reflect on the Supreme. And Sanat Kumara advocates the practice of Shraddha. When a man develops Shraddha, he becomes capable of reflection, otherwise not, says Sanat Kumara. Then he continues saying Shraddha is developed through single-mindedness. And then he says, one who performs his duties develops single-mindedness. Otherwise, he will not. And when Naradji asks, how can I perform my duties? He says that a person will decide to do something if he thinks or believes that he will get joy by doing that. He will not do it otherwise. So one must know what gives oneself joy. Now, when it comes to joy, if we find joy in limited thing, one will get limited joy. If one seeks infinity, then he becomes one with that infinite bliss. Now you will see on the right hand side some arrows. The central black arrow path is what Sanat Kumara explained to Naradji, saying actions, duties, focus, sattvic shraddha enables reflection and you reach the supreme. Now I have two options. Either I seek limited joy or I look for infinite bliss. This is the path of prayas or shreyas. It's the path of good or pleasant. If we decide to go by the path of pleasant, that is a limited joy, and not the path of good, which is infinite bliss, then accordingly our path is chosen for us. In the path of infinite bliss, goal of reaching that absolute nirguna Brahman becomes our driving force. The mumukshutvam that is there drives us. Whereas in the limited joy path, our own desires are driving us. Maybe noble desires, but it is still desires. The second interesting feature about the path in blue is that when it is goal driven, karma yoga becomes naturally ours, meaning we start performing our duties without a sense of ownership, nor do we are concerned about the results of performing our duties. Whereas when we perform our duties with desire, then we have an ego, an enjoyership is adorning us, and a feeling that I am doing, both will come to us. But if you decide that I want to do noble things, one path takes you to jnana yoga, other path takes you to bhakti yoga. And in bhakti yoga, there are people who can move from the green line to the blue line and then go to jivanmukta. Or if they decide that they want to continue the path of bhakti, they can reach krama mukti by reaching saguna brahman. Or you will reach jivan mukti, reaching the nirguna brahman. This much is dependent on our sattvic shraddha. The degree to which our sattvic shraddha is there decides whether we go on the blue line or the green line. So one must know what gives joy and what kind of joy is it. Is it limited or is it something that I am looking for is an infinite joy? This much, if we are keeping track of it, then we are absolutely in the right track. Swami Ramakrishna Paramahamsa says, a joyful state is achieved by digging for a treasure buried underneath the ground. Both the pursuit and the results are indeed joyful. Shraddha thus involves a joyful acceptance of the source of information, which is Vedanta, Shastra, and Guru, as being truly trustworthy, so that one can put efforts to traverse the Jnana Marga with a firm conviction that it will give us infinite bliss. In Mahanarayana Upanishad, there is a portion which describes mantras uttered while taking food. With supreme Shraddha, one recognizes the immortality being fed to the five pranas. That is a summary of that mantra. I am not quoting the mantra here. There, the consumption of food is linked to Shraddha, saying through Shraddha, I am actually feeding myself immortality. The experience of eating is converted into through sattvic Shraddha into a higher experience of recognizing that it is immortality that is coming into me. Taittiriya Upanishad covers selfless sattvic expression when it recommends one to give dhana with Shraddha and never without it. So from these two examples of Mahanarayana Upanishad and Taittiriya Upanishad, both experience as well as expression, Shraddha is important, is indicated. Shraddha therefore should be cultivated to express as our sattvic faith in both experience and expression of ourselves. Puja Gurudev recommends a two-pronged attach-detach method for inculcating Shraddha. One should attach to divine beings through satsang and detach from rajasic and tamasic tendencies, says Puja Gurudev. This can be achieved only by a very disciplined lifestyle guided by a sincere purpose. Because the goal is lofty, one should continue to remain in that higher sphere of experience. Now we will take a look at Shraddha in Moksha Marga and see what way Shraddha plays the role. In Moksha Marga, the focus is on liberation rather than righteous living, which is the direction prescribed by Dharma Marga. Righteous living is prescribed in Dharma Marga, and liberation is the goal of Moksha Marga. The process of Viveka, Vairagya, Shatka Sampatti, and Mumukshutvam accordingly will change differently when it comes to Moksha Marga and or Jnana Marga as it's also known. In this path, renunciation of actions and its results is prescribed for attaining that realization which is beyond all duality. Accordingly, in this path, Viveka becomes discrimination between Atma and Anatma. Vairagya will be to give up all Anatma, which includes even Dharma, because any action, any desire, any liking, disliking, everything belongs to Anatma. So discrimination says give up Anatma, and Vairagya is to actually renounce it. And for gaining this knowledge of the infinite, one needs to develop Shraddha in Vedanta and Guru's instruction. In Viveka Chudamani, Bhagavan Shankaracharya defines Shraddha as Shastrasya Guru Vakyasya Satya Buddhya Avadarana. We saw that. Acceptance by firm judgment as true of what scriptures and the Guru instruct is called by sages as Shraddha, is what we saw as the definition. This perception of reality is the Moksha Marga. That is the fourth Purushartha of all human beings. For taking this path of moksha or jnana, a high degree of spiritual wealth in the form of shatka sampatti is required. Bhagavan Krishna assures this which has been taught to thee, talking about the Sankhya, the knowledge. He says, now listen to the wisdom of yoga, which is in 2.39, he's giving the distinction, which becomes the means to attain that knowledge. He says, cast off bonds of action. And Swami Shivananda in his commentary says, both dharma, adharma, merit, demerit, everything has to be given up because it will not touch karma yogi who works without attachment and ego. And that is what is recommended as the means. Shraddha is stressed in Moksha Marga as it plays an important function to give up even sattvic activities such as puja, etc. That is why, in order to limit interference from prarabdha, Bhagavan Shankaracharya recommends the monastic lifestyle of sannyasa. When it comes to Dharma Marga, righteous living expects one to follow injunctions of the Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas. Here, Viveka is practiced for discerning what is righteous and what is conforming to scriptures and what is not. Vairagya in Dharma Marga is detachment from prohibited and binding attachment. Samadhamma are employed in Dharma Marga to help our mind maintain the dharmic vairagya and not succumb to unrighteous desires. Uparama and Titiksha are developed to withstand the pulls from the unrighteous impulses that may surface from within or without. Shraddha then will become implicit trust in Vedic injunctions, which is helpful in maintaining the righteous lifestyle. Asserting this point, there is a mantra in Kathopanishad also. A second mantra of the chapter 1, it is said when Dakshina, after completing the Vajasaneya Yaga was being distributed, Shraddha awakened in the heart of Nachiketas, who was still a boy. He said to himself, joyless surely are the worlds to which he goes, who gives away cows which no longer can eat, drink, give milk, or give birth. He realized his father was deviating from the righteous injunctions of Veda. His Shraddha gave him clarity and direction to even question his father. For Shraddha to awaken, there is no age limit. Here, Shraddha is towards Veda, which expounds what is Dharma and Adharma. What happens if one does not have any Shraddha at all? Bhagavad Gita 4.40 states that one who is ignorant and is ashraddhana mean one who has no trust in higher means of knowledge. Bhagavan Shankaracharya adds here, Guru Vakyeshu Shastreshu Avishvasvan, mean one who does not even have any trust in this means of knowledge to liberate him. And Samshayatma, meaning he's got a doubting mind. I'm not very sure it will liberate me or not. What happens to them? Vinashyati, perishes. For one with a doubting mind, na ayam lokaha, neither in this world, which is a familiar world for us, na paraha, nor in the next world, na sukham asti. Happiness does not exist. Here the term perishes is to indicate spiritual death. The term ashradhananaha covers two kinds of situation. Those who are not having any conviction towards anything, that is tamasic. This is lack of Shraddha. The second situation is those who are having either Rajasic or Tamasic Shraddha due to power of Vasana, Rajasic and Tamasic. They have Shraddha or leaning towards negative and prohibited paths. Their belief is driven by their Vasana towards these paths. This leads them to spiritual downfall. One who lacks Shraddha remains ignorant of the Dharma and Moksha Marga, thus leads an indulgent animalistic life. His human embodiment is wasted on him. It is almost like death for him. On the other hand, one who is knowledgeable and yet lacks the sattvic shraddha to guide him toward dharma and moksha marga is also perishing, as he too, due to his unvirtuous lifestyle, loses the opportunity of future human embodiment and takes to a life of animals and other lower creatures. When Arjuna asks about the fate of those who are possessed of sattvic shraddha, yet do not follow its direction due to doubts caused by negative vasana, Bhagavan responds in 6.41 that they too are also spiritually perishing. However, if they take to path of righteousness by constant endeavors, they will continue in the right path in future embodiment. In Shiva Mahina Sutra, verse 10, it is declared that when Lord Shiva took the form of a pillar of fire, Brahmaji trying from above and Vishnu trying from below both failed to realize the extent of this infinite form as they did not have Shraddha and Bhakti. Only when Vishnu embraced Bhakti with Shraddha, he was able to discern one's true nature as this infinite Brahman. Lord Shiva as infinite Brahman, this is Lord Shiva's true nature. Brahmaji, who remained without Shraddha, not only did not realize Brahman, Brahmaji's useless wisdom, represented by his fifth head, was plucked away by Lord Shiva. In conclusion, Mundaka Mantra 2.17 describes that Brahman alone has got the 16 kalas which make up the Virat Purusha. Out of these kalas, Shraddha is also one of the factors. All other beings, including humans, are manifested from this Virat Purusha to perform karma and all ritualistic activities. A single pointedness focus known as tapas, devotion to the Supreme, and a trust in scriptures and Guru called Shraddha are the means for achieving the fourth Purushartha, declares the Upanishad. Through these mantras, we realize that Shraddha is inherently our nature, like all other divine qualities. Based on the texture of our instrument, it can be misdirected. We have to cautiously cultivate the right kind of sattvic Shraddha and take us towards the path of realization. And it is said, restraining the sense organs through tapaha and brahmacharyam through the restraining the mind, and finally Shraddha, a joyful and firm conviction at the intellect level, is the one which will take us to jnana and realization. With that, I have summarized what I wanted to share with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Maharajji. It was a very good discourse conveying the meaning, need, functions, and importance of Shraddha in both Dharma Marga and Jnana Marga. Thank you very much for good, very nice discourse. People or viewers also have appreciated it a lot. Thank you. Viewers, you are requested to join tomorrow morning's session, 7 a.m. Indian Standard Time. It is going to be by Kutumba Shastri on Advaita Siddhanta, Drishti Srishtivad and Srishti Drishtivad. I will close the session by chanting a Shanti Path. This is the invite by viewers are invited for this session also, which is on the screen. I will try and close this session by chanting Shanti Path. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Sanjeev ji, you'd like to share the email ID for any follow-up questions
Yes,
that may
yes.
come up?
We have done that. We have done that.
Okay, good. Thank you.
We have put that in the chat box in the beginning itself.
Very good. So if anybody wants to communicate with me
Yes,
for
yes.
follow-up questions or queries, they can use that link.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
giving me an opportunity to share what little I could gather. I'm indebted to Indica and those who are attending today to make this session as wonderful as it is for me today. I hope it has imparted some benefit to each and every one of you. But the time is too short. We could have had a 1 week session on Shraddha. I had to pack it and keep it brief and very simple so that it can be easily assimilated. A longer discussion is possible if you are interested. Hari.
Thank you. Thank you once again. It was very nice discourse. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjeev.
Thank you.